Did the Oklahoma Sooners move the needle for some top flight prospects at the ChampU Barbecue? We'll discuss on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com today. He's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's episode, we're going to talk Thunder. We got to. Congratulations to the Thunder. Shout out to all you Thunder fans out there. We'll discuss it. Jay was in the building for Game 7, the clincher. I was watching on the deck at a pool party, having a blast. I'm not a Thunder fan. I know I've joked about being a Thunder fan. I can't fully celebrate this one with you all. I've been a long-time Mavericks fan. I'm just hurt because they traded Luka. But we'll talk that in the third segment. We're going to talk about a kicker commitment and why that matters for the Oklahoma Sooners in the second segment. But first, Jay, ChampU Barbecue came and went. We haven't gotten any commitments out of ChampU Barbecue aside from the kicker commitment that we'll discuss in the second segment. But we know that Oklahoma made a strong impression on a number of prospects.
Yeah, it based upon the reports, and sorry, I don't have a voice because as John mentioned, I was at the game screaming my lungs out. Yeah. I had to, right? Shout out to my Thunder, still rocking my shirt. But no, the ChampU Barbecue weekend, it sounds like the entire Oklahoma Sooners staff really made an impression. But I do want to start off with this, though. Shout out to Brent Venables. Shout out to the entire staff. Bill Beatonbow, DeMarco Murray, Emmett Jones, Todd Bates, Miguel Chavis, going through all of those coaches, that they make it so easy and so welcoming for the legends to come back. If you go and look at the pictures that OU posted, you see all the pictures like Bill Beatonbow with his offensive linemen came back, Creed Humphreys, Wanye Morris, etc. You see quarterbacks populating back. You see skills guys show. This staff has done a fantastic job of reaching back and bringing those dudes in to be a part of this process. And I don't think y'all understand that. That's something that I've heard a couple of recruits actually say about their visits with Oklahoma has been that they love not only the family feel, because everybody gives a quote unquote family atmosphere feel, right, John? But it's really the seeing players actually want to come back and be a part of this. A lot of them, that is a big movement for a lot of these players. And it makes them feel like, oh no, y'all are like legitimate when it comes to this family piece. Y'all are legitimate about wanting people to come back and visit. Y'all are legitimate about calling people back to say, hey, come back and visit and come learn, meet some of the new players and actually root for the team. You can tell that former Oklahoma alum know about what Oklahoma's doing, what the Sooners are doing on a consistent basis. And I think that that's huge. It's big to see that. And I think it's very influential on these recruits. So when we talk about these players, John, Oklahoma has moved the needle with a lot of these players. This is all I've been hearing over the last few hours before the game. It sounds like Oklahoma and the pictures that they posted, they like what Oklahoma's got going on. And it sounds like we have a few players that probably will turn in their chips, and we're going to be having some conversations about some commitments over the next few weeks.
Before we dive into anybody specifically, just one more thing I wanted to note. I like the little twist that they're adding to some of these visits where they're having the guys wear NFL player jerseys.
Yeah.
People rocking Nick Bonito for the Denver Broncos or Obo Okoronkwo for Houston. And that's kind of cool to me. Like, not only are you going to get a chance to meet some of these former players that are coming back, but let me show you their jersey. And if you want to, you can wear it for the day or two, or who knows how that all plays out. But that's just kind of neat. That's a neat little touch. So
Agreed.
let's start with Jake Kreul. He's the big fish of this recruiting weekend. Now that we have Bo Bentley in the boat, what are you hearing? What's the buzz on Jake Kreul coming out of ChampU Barbecue?
Based upon the pictures posted and the conversations, it sounds like he enjoyed himself. And we know that Miguel Chavis has had a really good relationship with him. And he spoke about that in a few interviews that I've seen. So it sounds like Oklahoma has maintained top of mind and a really good impression with him. I'm hoping Oklahoma has found a way to get him to go ahead and lock that bad boy down. Like, get him to just shut it down and be done with it. It's not a guarantee, of course. That's just not, when it comes to guys that are right there at the borderline 5-star, we'll know about if he's going to be considered a quote unquote 5-star. I think beginning of August is when just about all the publications put out their first big ranking right before the senior season. And so I expect Jay Kreul to end up being a 5-star across the board, probably most likely a 5-star plus, but he's raved about Oklahoma and the atmosphere and everything. And like I mentioned before, the family feel, just having, greats come back and talk to them and point out you had legends, talk about what it was like with a lot of these coaches. John, the crazy part now, think about it. Brent Venables is now going on his 4th season as the head coach at Oklahoma. And it's funny because he was a part of the 2000 team, right? He was part of that team in the new refresh of Oklahoma. But even better, Teddy Lehman goes in there and talks on a regular basis as he covers it with Oklahoma Breakdown, him and Gabe Eichert. You've got those two that do a lot of coverage, but they come back, but they're able to talk about interacting with a lot of the coaches that are currently on staff. Kevin Wilson, who's back as an analyst, that's someone they can talk about. Bill Beatonbow, who's been around for 13 years. You don't have that type of consistency and continuity with coaches. It's very rare. And especially when your team is good, because people poach your coaches. They're going to give them an opportunity to become coordinators and take opportunities for head coaching jobs. They can talk about that. They can talk about these coaches. Oh, they've been here, they've been there, but they now are back here because they want to come back home. And so it shows that Oklahoma takes care of their people too. So any players, any recruits that say, you know what, I want to get into coaching one day, they now see that, oh, I play here. There's a good chance that I can get the call back to come when I'm ready to coach here in the big leagues.
Well, and even if it's not at Oklahoma,
right?
Playing at Oklahoma, being a grad assistant at Oklahoma, that sets you up to potentially have a long career coaching, if not at Oklahoma, somewhere else. Look at Phil Lodeholt, right? He went from assistant offensive line coach to offensive line coach at Colorado to offensive line coach at Mississippi State in the SEC. Wide receiver is going to be one of those big positions that we track throughout this entire recruiting cycle because it's been a big issue for Oklahoma. All of the injuries that they faced last year, all the transfer portal departures. What's the buzz you're hearing about what Oklahoma did to maybe lock in some wide receiver commitments this weekend?
You saw the pictures floating around from a Craig Dandridge, who I didn't think was going to show up. I'm going to be honest. We talked about this a little bit on the show when we talked about the list. I had heard that he would potentially show, but it was also just hesitation because it feels like he's a heavy Georgia lean, being from Milton, Georgia. But he showed up. He took a lot of pictures, and it sounds like Oklahoma has made him have something to think about, like a lot to think about. I know that all the insiders have been reporting. I've seen a couple posts on social media about it, but definitely go check out what the insiders have been reporting about it. But it sounds like there's certain aspects of Oklahoma that's got his attention that Oklahoma has been pushing heavy with a lot of these players. So with him, Jordan Clay showing up was a huge one. He's got heavy potential. Daniel Odom, not Danny Odom. I think I always get those two mixed up. It's kind of like J Dub and J Will when it comes to the Thunder. You got Jalen Williams. You got to think about the spelling of it or whatnot and who's who. But I think, Daniel Odom with the O, the wide receiver out of California who's friends with Jaden O'Neal. And we all may have saw Jaden O'Neal just committed to Florida State last night. But he came in and he was out there really heavily recruiting his teammates, potential recruits with them. You saw him tweeting at Bo Bentley. They all interacted with him. That was why that Bo Bentley commitment on Friday night, John, was huge. And that's what we talked about when we recorded and put the video out is now he's in there trying to get it. Hey, y'all want to play catch? He is really pushing for it. So you got the Craig Dandridge, who feels like someone that could now be close to an Oklahoma lean. Especially if they're willing to, fork out the dollars to get him. I mean, Georgia may, but Georgia at the same time is also after a whole bunch of other big fish too. This is one that Oklahoma could sneak in and snatch away. Same thing with Jordan Clay, who feels like a Baylor lean, but if Oklahoma has done the right job, they may have swayed him also. Pettit didn't come in, but he's one that we know Oklahoma wants. Same thing with Davian Grossi. And then Zachariah Turner, he was in town and he was at a Duncanville. And John, let's talk about him real quick.
Let's do this after the break. Let's
do that.
We got a few more ChampU Barbecue notes and nuggets, and we'll talk Trace Rudd, the kicker commitment, coming up after the break because there's just so much to break down from this weekend.
It is.
Let's do this coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You already found the action. Why not make a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Like me, I jumped all over my Oklahoma City Thunder for them to win the championship game. Took that good old, 6.5, and boom. Your boy hit because they won the game by 12. But you can do that with baseball. Like right now, I'm looking at the Seattle Mariners as 1.5 point favorites over the Minnesota Twins. Good thing is that if I really want to take that money line at -122 or even build a parlay, you can do that with FanDuel. They give you that opportunity. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. You got to take advantage of that. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, so ChampU Barbecue is still top of mind. We're going to have a lot coming down the pipeline from this over the next several days and over the next couple of weeks. So where is Oklahoma with a couple of these wide receivers that you were about to talk about?
Yeah, Zachariah Turner was one that, we were about to talk about in the last segment, and this is kind of a big deal. He went to Duncanville, Texas. And as we all know, Duncanville's been like a massive, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say that after what happened last night in the Thunder game. I'm going to go ahead and not use that term, but it's not been a good thing for the Sooners. Let's put it that way. It's been a team that we have struggled to get kids at. There's a lot of kids that have been
Colin Simmons, Caden Durham. There you go.
I mean, right. You could go down the list on it. Duncanville is just not a school that Oklahoma seems to recruit very well, but Zach Turner sounds like one that could be the change. I know he was initially listed as a tight end. A lot of schools are recruiting him as a tight end. Oklahoma is looking to throw him out there as like a wide, let him play on the outside. So I think he has the speed for it, even though a lot of people believe he has the frame to add enough pounds to be really good tight end. I think Oklahoma's giving an opportunity to be either or. And if that's the case, I think the Sooners may actually have a chance of trying to win the services. Now, he announced his top 6. You've got Oklahoma, you got SMU, you've got Miami. And for Oklahoma, the biggest, toughest part is going to be his commitment is now July 12th. And because he's doing it on July 12th, now you got to kind of You gotta fight off all the competition. And so if Oklahoma can do that, I think they have a chance of possibly winning his services.
Yeah, Texas, Ole Miss, it's a big-time recruitment. I know you see SMU listed in there, and you're like, oh, it's just SMU. It's not just SMU anymore. This is your 1980s SMU. This is your Gold Trans Am, SMU, Eric
This
Dickerson,
is
SMU.
death penalty SMU. Right. Why they got the death penalty.
Right. SMU is thankful for the NIL era more than anybody else.
Yep.
So that Zach Turner recruitment is going to be a tough one. You've got 3 weeks where you have to fend off all these other big time suitors. If you're Oklahoma saying, hey, you're going to come here and you're going to play wide receiver, that might be something that can move the needle enough if he doesn't want to play tight end and everybody else is projecting tight end. Let's talk kicker because the Oklahoma Sooners landed 5-star. Cole's kicking 5-star. Trace Rudd out of Kansas. This is a nice commitment, a left-footed kicker who was the number 27 rated kicker according to Cole's Kicking?
Yes. We talked about this when Oklahoma grabbed the transfer kicker as well. There's one thing that's critical when it comes to playing in the SEC and the teams that Oklahoma have to play against is you got to make sure that you have some consistent and really good kicking and clutch kicking, especially in close games. Most of the time, it's really within 40 yards is what you're typically going to need your kicker to be able to make. And if your kicker is doing that, then you are good. And I know that the kicker that we picked up out of the portal, who was that came from? Oh, gosh, I just had a good moment just now. But regardless, we brought in a kicker because that was the one thing we had to make sure that we were ready for. Tate Sandell from UTSA. He actually I think he was like 11 for 12 or something like that inside of 40 yards. That to me is the clutch spot of where you need a kicker to perform. And that is something, that's why you're going to try to bring in every year a top 10 kicker in your class, because you want to make sure that you're not only pushing the competition and make sure everybody's staying competitive, but you want to make sure that guys know, hey, you got to be able to make these 40 yarders. You got to be able to make between 40 and 50 a little consistently. You may have to occasionally make a 50 plus. The question is, can we trust you to make a 50 plus? If we can, then we definitely got ourselves a great one. But that's what you're looking for. You got to have guys that are ready for those moments, because you're going to be in a lot of dogfights. And a lot of the times that kicking is what determines a win from a dub, from an L.
One thing I like about this recruitment, they are showing an emphasis on special teams. They want to make sure that they've got a guy that can come in and hit kicks. You know, they're not just sitting there hoping that they're going to be able to find somebody. They rolled out the red carpet. They brought him in for an official visit. According to Parker Thune, like, they have not done that in the Brent Venables era. Actually had a kicker on campus for an official visit. Like, I'm sure they've had unofficial visits, but they made sure that they knew that Trace Rudd knew he was a priority. And the other aspect of this that I like, coming from Kansas to Oklahoma, you're going to know how to kick in the wind. That's not going to be something that's going to be surprising to you. One of the difficulties with kicking at Oklahoma is it gets so stinking windy and the winds will swirl. And it's a tough place to kick sometimes. But if you've kicked in Kansas, you'll be able to kick in Oklahoma. So I like that aspect of recruiting the Midwest and recruiting kickers from the Great Plains, because they have to be able to come and kick in this environment, which is not an easy place to kick. So it's, again, Doug Deacon, Brent Venables, Jim Nagy, putting an emphasis on special teams. As you mentioned, Jay, they're going to be playing in close games. You can't afford to leave 3 points on the board in easy money territory. And you got to have kickers. If you're in the SEC, you got to have kickers that can hit consistently 90, 95, 100% inside 40 yards. Those are got to have it kicks. If you're really good beyond 40 yards, that's even better, but you cannot miss the layups. And in this day and age, inside 40 yards should be a layup if you're kicking at Oklahoma.
Yep. And that's exactly what it is. The goal is to get as many layups as possible, or just kick a whole bunch of extra points. Yeah. And that's going to be just as important too. You got to make those as well. So if Oklahoma can go out there, if the Sooners can go out there and just put up points on a consistent basis, then the kicker's going to still have to do their part. And those extra points are just as important. I mean, I've seen where, heck, didn't LSU lose because they missed extra points in that game against Florida State like 2 years ago? And then miss field goals at the end of the game. That happens often. You'd be amazed in real dogfights. It happens. And so what we've got to do is be able to match up for that. And I'm glad that we're taking our recruitment of kickers seriously.
Yeah. I just want to read this to you from Trace Rudd's profile over at Cole's Kicking. Says he is quickly developing into one of the top field goal kickers in the country. And to me, that's a strong recommendation there. He's also somebody that can punt, although he's only the number 73 ranked punter and considered a 4.5 star by Cole's Kicking. So if you're looking for somebody that can do a little bit of both, he might be able to do that for you. He is able to kick it out of the end zone. He can be a kickoff specialist as well. So again, you're getting somebody into Norman that can do several different things for you on special teams. And I think in this day and age, in the roster limitation age, in the rev share age, in the NIL age, you kind of have to maximize some of this. And if you can find a guy that can do a little bit of everything for you, especially if he can be both your place kicker and your kickoff guy, because so many times teams are allotting 2 roster spots or more for kickers. How much are they going to be willing to do that down the road when roster limitations squeeze the rosters? They'd probably rather have another defensive end they can develop, or another quarterback they can work on developing, or another running back. They might not be carrying as many kickers into the future. So having a guy, again, that can do a little bit of everything, I think that's beneficial.
Yeah, 100%.
Thunder up, man. We got to talk the Oklahoma City Thunder. Big dub in Game 7. Oklahoma City crowd showed out. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I know as a Dallas Mavericks fan, I'm not supposed to be excited for the Oklahoma City Thunder as a quasi-rival of the Mavs, but man, I can't help it. Like, some of my best friends are Thunder fans. Shout out Jason, my boy Luke. You guys have been longtime Thunder fans. You've gone through the ebbs and flows just as Jay has, just as all of you have. You've gone through the big 3, the breakup of the team, not being able to get past Golden State, losing to the Mavs and Dirk and all that. Went through all the highs and lows of it all, and now the Thunder are NBA champions.
Yeah, John, a lot of people don't understand. I was a employee of the Thunder organization for since 2008. Like, last year was my last year of being on payroll and being able to work games, entertainment side, and helping. And I've just been waiting for this one moment. This is always
breaking news to me. I didn't know that.
Right? Yeah, a lot of people don't know. I used to work games. I worked minor league games. I spent hours upon evenings down there at Paycom Ford Center up in Tulsa when they had the minor league team up there. I was everywhere, and all I've ever wanted to do was see championships. The Blue won a championship last year, and now the Thunder followed behind the next year and getting their ring. So I've got to see both sides of it. The minors as well as the majors finally get that championship, and man, it was an experience. Again, I still don't have a voice from it because of all the screaming and hollering, and just being able to be in the atmosphere is what we needed. And it's awesome because you're starting to see the coaching staff even acknowledge that. You saw Jim Nagy point that out. He tweeted out a picture of Sam Presti, GM to GM. So for Nagy, the big thing is, how am I going to get this here in Norman, just like we got up there in Oklahoma City? You saw Coach Nate Dreiling put out there, why not us? So, John, we have to ask the question, why not Oklahoma City?
Well, I don't know why not.
Why can't the Sooners do it?
Yeah, you've got a GM that's looking to build something special, and he's looking to do things his own way, a little bit different than what other places might expect, similar to Sam Presti. Sam Presti did it his way. He had to make a lot of really difficult decisions to get Oklahoma to this place. The Paul George trade, figuring out how to manage what to do with Russell Westbrook, who was a legend and still is considered one of the hometown favorites of all time. Managing everything that has come with all of these great talents and great assets in a place like Oklahoma City that has experienced reaching the mountaintop, but just coming up short, and then had to tear it all down and build it back up. I mean, he did it his way, and it paid off and it worked. And now Oklahoma City's set up to be a team that can contend for years down the road. Jim Nagy's trying to do it the same way. He's not building in the same way that everybody else is trying to build a football program. And you know what? I don't care. I want a GM that has a strong identity for what he wants his program to look like. I want a GM that's willing to take some risks and take some chances to build a program and build a team that might look a little bit different on paper than what everybody else is trying to do. Because you know what? You got to win in the margins. And if you can win in the margins, you can win in the areas that nobody else is expecting you to win, and that's in your roster building, that's going to make you a potential championship contender. And that's what Sam Presti did. Sam Presti was calculated. He hit in the draft. He took some risks on some players that maybe other people didn't see the value in. And he built a championship contender and a team that turned into a championship team.
That's exactly what he did. He like I said, he did it his way. And he pointed out that one thing I love that Sam Presti said is that next time that we go to the playoffs, we don't want it to be just an appearance. We want it to be an arrival. As in, we want to make sure that we're not going there once. We're not going there. We want to go there every year as consistently as possible, barring injury. And we want to go in there and win a title. We want people to know that we're here. Well, Thunder are here. Mm-hmm. And everybody under contract until through 2027. So they've got 2 more years with everybody that's on the roster today under contract. And as the salary cap continues to go up, they are going to still be in good shape. And if they want to move pieces, they can. If they want to continue to get assets, which I know Sam Presti is going to take some of these picks, he's going to kick them down the street because he doesn't need them right now. No reason to waste those picks if you're not going to use that currency today. Just move it down the line and take somebody else's unprotected in a couple of years. He's going to do that. For Nagy, he doesn't have those picks, but what Nagy does have is he's looking at these recruits and he's trying to find the ones that's going to be able to be here for the next couple of years. And he's also evaluating those talents that could potentially enter the transfer portal, down the line. They're watching and they've got eyes and ears everywhere. That's where that relationship piece goes. I mean, Jaden Ott enters the transfer portal and he immediately ends up a Sooner. Like nobody knew how the heck they knew that was going to happen. But hey, somewhere down the line, they probably got him up. But hey, y'all looking for a running back? I know a dude that's going to enter the portal. When he enters the portal, do you want him? Absolutely. I had been looking at this man for a couple years. I said he was going to be one of the best. He did do some injuries. Now he's healthy. He'll be one of the best. And heck, PFF actually is funny because Nagy actually tweeted this out. PFF put up their 2026 NFL draft guys. Number 2 dude on that list in running backs, Jay Knott. Nagy kind of put the eyes out there like, Of course, obviously, I have been watching him for the Senior Bowl. Mm-hmm. That's what you're going to be seeing. That's so for me, Thunder winning this championship, Jim Nagy is going to be. I know that he's taken some of the recipes from what Sam Presti is doing to be able to build something here in Oklahoma. So this weekend with ChampU Barbecue obviously is a good example of these were kids that Nagy pointed out and was working with the staff of saying, hey, these are the ones we should be going after because I see the NFL traits. And if they come out there and play like that, you have a chance of pushing for a title. And we know the staff is looking at this saying, all right, the Thunder did it. Now the Sooners got to follow behind.
Yeah, and there's no 1 + 1 = 2 here, but Oklahoma can certainly capitalize on Oklahoma City's success. Those guys are coming down to be a part of Oklahoma athletics. Like you're seeing them at basketball games. You're seeing them at football games. Like they're making the trip down to Norman to be a part of what Oklahoma's doing. And there's an opportunity to capitalize on some of that, whether it's like a halftime, hey, welcome the Oklahoma City Thunder, at the halftime of some game or whatever it is. Like there's a chance to use that to continue to catapult your program forward. Again, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's apples and oranges. They're not a direct tie-in to Oklahoma basketball, but there are some tie-ins to Oklahoma athletics and the Oklahoma City Thunder. If they can use that kind of as a springboard to continue to propel and promote the state of Oklahoma as a place to come live, as a place to, do your university schooling at, I think that's all good, man. It's good on the recruiting trail. It's only positive vibes. It's like, hey, if Oklahoma City can win, they can win an NBA championship. The Oklahoma Sooners can certainly win a championship in football.
Exactly. They can do it. We have the talent. We've shown And the big thing is all the evaluators out there are seeing it. I mean, you're hearing about Grayson Halton, aka G Baby. He's starting to get some recognition. You're hearing about him. You're starting to hear about John Mateer. I mean, from Todd McShay saying he's the most competitive MFer out there, right? You're getting all of that. You're seeing Jaden Ott rated as one of the top running backs coming up for the NFL draft because this is his last year. He doesn't have any more years. He's done. So yeah, you're starting to see all of that stuff start to snowball. So now they need to show us it on the field. I get that a lot of y'all don't like the hype, but we're reminding you all, we're still holding them accountable on the football field. We want to see it. And the good thing is it's still June. It's still hype season. And the best part is once August hits and fall camp, we can actually see game one, what the heck these Sooners are about.
Yep. And they just have to go prove it on the field. You know, you got to go win games. Doesn't matter what we think. Doesn't matter what the national pundits think. If Oklahoma goes out and wins games, they're going to create the narrative themselves. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, on YouTube. You can follow me at John 9 Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner. Also a thunder up, baby.
Thunder up.
Thunder up, baby. John, you're honorary.
Buddy, even though I'm
you're honorary.
Congrats.